All right, everybody, welcome into Sports Talk for You. My name is Aaron Bell. I am with my co-host Adam Parker. The other three could not join us. They are busy at the moment. We have a special guest today. He has a very popular Twitter feed. He has over 16,000 followers now, and he has his own website called collegehoopsconnection.com. I want to welcome in Jake Atkins. Hello, Jake.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining. So let's go ahead and get into, I know you're big on college basketball and you do some NBA stuff too. I know that, but let's go ahead and start about your website and like what's your website about?
Yeah, so obviously you mentioned my website, collegehoopsconnection.com. What the focus of it is primarily is I try to interview, players ranging from recruits coming into college basketball, transfers, and even first-team All-American and Wooden Award finalist Luka Garza. And basically, I just do these interviews to try to give respective fan bases an idea of what to expect from that player next season. I always like to ask what they're working on the most in the off season, stuff like that, so they can get to know the players better. So yeah, that's the main focus of the website as of now.
Now, when it comes to those players, in your opinion, how now does this new G League gonna affect all these other, Power Five conference teams?
Yeah, so I think it's a lot of people are overstating the impact that it's going to have on college basketball. Obviously, it's not the same, but you remember back in the day, players go straight from high school to the NBA, and you know that the college basketball was still great. You still had the buzzer beaters, you still had upsets, you still had all that. So, and plus, not everybody's going to be going to the G League. They're targeting mostly the top, 25 to 30 players. And, not all of those guys are going to accept their offer. So I think the impact is going to be very little. I think college basketball is still, college basketball is mainly the people that win the championship are usually teams with a lot of veterans anyway. Besides 2012 Kentucky and, 2015 Duke, a team full of five stars that usually they go far in the tournament, but we usually don't see them win the whole thing. I think college basketball will still be great either way.
Yeah.
Do you think with the G League, and probably it will take a lot of the five stars away, you think that some of the recruiting violations could be limited from this?
I think that's interesting to look at. I think cheating will still be rampant, either way. I think it might even be more with this. G League, who knows what they're going to do to get some of these guys, take them away from college basketball. But I still think, like the people in college basketball, once a cheater, always a cheater is the way I look at it. But you're seeing a lot of teams get caught now. Kansas, they're facing a lot of violations. Louisville and LSU, some other schools, Arizona. So I think it'll still continue, but I think the NCAA is they're starting to look at some of these schools really hard right now, and it'll be very interesting what they do with Kansas because Kansas is a blue blood. They bring in a lot of TV ratings. They have a huge fan base. So does Louisville. So I think it'll be interesting what they do with those schools, whether they lay the hammer to them. And, if they lay the hammer to these schools and it's more than these schools like, you could see it going maybe to the Supreme Court even, I think. And I'm not sure if the NCAA wants that, but, it'll be interesting to see whether they go easy and try not to get the pushback or whether they try to make an example out of them.
Now, with the whole KU situation, people are talking, they're saying allegations, Bill Self could be up to a year suspension and all that stuff. If that is the case, because there was rumors out about Bill Self maybe going to the Bulls, but he came out saying, no, I'm not going to. Do you think he would go to the NBA if he had a year suspension?
I think he still stays at Kansas if it's just 1 year. If it gets like laying the hammer down and it's like 3 to 4 year postseason ban, I could see him going to the NBA. But I know he was also some people thought that he might go to the Spurs after Popovich retires, and he shut that down as well. So
Yeah.
I think it's just like a 1 year type thing. I think he'll stay with Kansas because I mean he's got much.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I'm a Spurs fan, so I wouldn't mind him going there. But I hear you about the whole investigation, especially into Kansas. I find it interesting because I'm an Arizona fan, born and raised in Tucson, and I thought it was interesting how when it all came out with Sean Miller, they were saying how there was a wiretap of 100,000 from Sean saying it about DeAndre Ayton. And it's interesting to me how that smoking gun, if you will, hasn't even been played out. ESPN hasn't played it, neither did they play it in court. But I find it interesting that at KU with Bill Self, I mean, he's caught on text message stating that, with the Adidas rep, how he's like, oh, this is just how Duke and North Carolina do it, right? And the guy responded, and Kentucky. So it's interesting to me because I'm just kind of curious to see what's going to happen with Sean Miller. What do you think is going to happen with him since there hasn't been that quote unquote smoking gun via text message or hearing that wiretap?
Yeah, so I think that's a good question. But personally for me, it's really hard to predict the NCAA because they're kind of unpredictable in almost any decision they make, and oftentimes it doesn't even make sense. Like you said, they got all this evidence on some of these guys, but we got to remember it takes a lot of time going through court and stuff like this for these things to play out. But at the end of the day, I don't know if I could see maybe a 1 or 2 year postseason type ban thing for them. The one I'm really confused about, is LSU with their coach, Will Wade.
Will Wade.
Yeah, he's right on the phone saying, I made this strong ass offer, all that stuff. That's clear, straight evidence that he's cheating. And I think he's probably the biggest cheater in college basketball, maybe. And I just don't see how he's still on the sidelines. Maybe part of it has to do with this coronavirus. They don't want to fire him in the middle of that. But it's just, for me, it's puzzling to, how he's still able to coach college basketball.
Yeah. Speaking of the coronavirus, I was wanting to know, have you spoke to any recruits lately and how they're handling, the whole recruitment issue with not being able to go to the schools and having to talk to the coaches on Zoom or other social media sites?
Yeah, so I have talked to a few recruits about this. Obviously, it's like uncharted territory. Basically, what I'm getting back from them is, this is not ideal for them deciding a school in this time. But, it's for the 2020 guys, it's just something they kind of got to live with. They can't change it. But, yeah, they're doing a lot of Zoom visits, virtual tours. These schools will have a iPhone or something or video camera, and they'll take them through the athletic facilities and all that. And they'll have meetings with basically the whole staff almost on Zoom. So that's basically the way they're handling things. And it's really hard to make a decision that way, in my opinion. But like I said, it's just something I guess they kind of got to deal with.
Yeah. Then go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, yeah, no, I was just saying, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely given the recruiting a whole different aspect. Speaking of a different aspect, what do you think about the NCAA saying it's okay for the players to make money off of their jersey, their name? What do you think about that?
Yeah. Personally, I'm a big fan of it. I know some people, some older people have this mindset that, it has to be all pure. It's amateur basketball. They got to do it for the good old love of the game.
Yeah.
But the NCAA is a billion-dollar industry, and I mean, you see all these elite guys at the top lining their pockets full, and the people that are actually out on the court, helping to make all this money aren't getting a single. I mean, yeah, they're getting some benefits, obviously, but they're not getting, I think, the benefits that they deserve. So, in my opinion, I think it's a really good idea, and maybe it'll help kind of persuade some of these guys that are fringe, on the deciding line. Maybe it'll help them to stay in school longer or not go to the G League if they can get some benefits from it. So I'm a fan of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because I know a lot of people were wanting, NCAA football and NCAA basketball to come back on all the gaming systems. And I mean, I used to play those too as a fan, and those were pretty fun. So it'd be nice to see those back and the guys make money off of those. But the only problem I have is, is it going to be, if those games do come back, because, those smaller colleges, are those kids from the smaller colleges going to get paid for having, all their names in those video games, or just going to be the Power 5 schools?
Yeah, so I think that's a good question. I think everybody that has their name basically used will get some sort of monetary payment from that, if that were to happen, if these were to come back. But I think it'll be basically I think it'll be based on a scale, like, in my opinion, like how much they bring revenue to the sport. So like a guy like Zion Williamson, obviously he's not in college anymore, but just using him as an example, I think he would get more money, a lot more off name, image, and likeness than someone, at like a NAIA school or something like D2, high, like low level D1. So I think the low level guys will get some sort, but it will be like nowhere near the Power 5. But I can't really see a way that they all get like the same amount, because they all bring like a certain revenue to the NCAA. They all have a certain value, and the value of a superstar isn't the same as this low level guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know about you, but a part of me wishes colleges would break away from the NCAA and totally like revamp like a different club, if you will. I don't know how you would feel about that, but I just think, over the years, just watching some of these NCAA violations, like, Rick Majerus, he used to coach at Utah and then went on to St. Louis, but he had a player called Keith Van Horn, and his dad died, and he took him out to get some breakfast and paid for it, which only cost $10. Well, that was against NCAA violations, and I just think it's just silly. So what do you think? Do you wish that they would break away from the NCAA?
Well, I think for that to happen, I believe it would be like several years in the making. I think it would be pretty hard to do, whether or not like everybody can get on board. But as someone who really doesn't like the decisions that the NCAA makes, it probably would be something that I would like. Now, if it would be possible, that might be a different story. But yeah, I think the NCAA, just about every decision they come out with, I'm basically on the other side of it. I'm not sure what, there are meetings, when they decide these, what's going to happen. I'm not sure what's going on in the room. I think you could get a board of just 10 random people off the street and could probably make a better decision than what some of the people in that meeting room makes. But yeah, I think it would be something that I would like, but I'm not sure if it will happen.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I understand. One last question from me, because I want to get to this whole transfer portal and how there was over 400 this year, which is just a miraculous amount. Have you talked to any guys that have entered that transfer portal, and do they like it, or do they think that, it's just a waste of time and too many guys are transferring for no reason? And how do these players feel about that?
Well, I talked to Noah Bauman, He transferred from San Jose State to USC, and he sat out all of last year in preparation, sit one, play couple, and he's a fan of it. Being someone who's had to sit out, he said that he put on a lot of muscle, worked on his shot a lot in the year that he had to sit out. So he personally was a fan of it. I think for guys that have to sit out a lot, you normally see a really good improvement from them from, the year before to whenever they're finally eligible, especially from the guys that are going from like a high major to maybe a little bit lower of a school. So from him, the feedback that I got was pretty good about it. I know they're voting, I believe it's in a couple of days. I'm not really for sure. I think it's May 20th. Could be wrong on that, but on the one-time transfer rule, where they can, transfer and be eligible right away. So I'm not sure if that will go through or not, but that'll be very interesting because Kentucky's got a guy, Olivier Sarr, who transferred from Wake Forest. And if he's eligible, I think Kentucky's a top 5 team in the nation. But if he's not, I think they're more like a fringe top 15 team. So he could be the difference in national title contender or not. So I think that'll be interesting whether that's passed or not.
Yeah, because, I live here in Wichita, so I'm a Wichita State fan. You probably heard about all the 7, 8 transfers that we had this year. Of course, one of them decided to come back and play because he had a high school teammate that signed with us for next year. But, fans were going crazy because they're saying, what's going on? Is there a coaching change? It's just not coaching. It's these guys see the talent coming in. I believe that when they see that talent coming in, they want to go somewhere where they know they're going to get playing time.
Right.
These guys went to colleges like UMass and Nevada, where Gary Sheffield went with Steve Alford, because that's where he was originally, was UCLA, and then he came to Wichita State. But, it's just these small colleges. I think these guys transfer and they say, hey, I see playing time, so I'm going to go there, because they know that these big colleges are not going to get that playing time.
Yeah, I was following that, and obviously I'm not on the inside with Wichita State's program, and just seeing guy after guy after guy enter the transfer portal, I was just sitting there staring. I was like, what is going on with this program? But yeah, it'll be interesting to see with the roster how it's kind of changed a lot, how Wichita State will fare next season. That'll be definitely something that I will be keeping an eye on. Well,
it's crazy because we went from all those transfers to all these recruits that they signed.
Right.
2 weeks they signed. Actually, within 4 or 5 days, they signed 6, 7 guys, and a couple of them are top JUCO players. And of course, one is Altique Gilbert from UConn that transferred. So that'll be nice. It's just they had a bad chemistry with this team this year, and as a fan, I saw this coming for Wichita State, and I saw transfers coming. So.
Yeah, it seemed like, even though they had success, it seemed like at times on the court that like some guys weren't having the amount of fun that you usually see from guys. Maybe a few guys were putting up more shots than some others would like, is just what kind of I observed from the outside looking in on that.
Yeah, Greg Marshall said it was a bunch of just, me stuff and selfish players, and it's worried all about stats. And like he said, you come to play for me, you're not going to score 30 points a game. So, Adam, you have any more questions?
Yeah, I do. I noticed on your Twitter, you posted an article about if you picked one, who would you pick? And it was Bill Walton or Dickie V.
Yes.
So, who would you pick? I'm curious.
Yeah, so that's just something that, every now and then I just kind of like to rile everybody up. Everybody's got opinions on those two. But personally, it's really hard. I'm not like the hugest fan of either one. I think they each bring something to the table, though, for like college basketball fans. Bill Walton, maybe not the type of analysis that one would like. He kind of goes off the rail. He might be telling a story from 1980 about a Grateful Dead concert that he was at. And Dickie V, You know, to me, from the outside looking in, he's a little bit biased towards the Blue Bloods. You'll never really hear him say a thing about Duke or Kentucky or, Kansas. It almost seems like he's on their payroll at times. But at the end of the day, if it's for like the game of the century, I would probably pick Dickie V because he at least he would be pumped up and excited for it, and ooh, oh baby, look at that. Whereas Walton, even if it's a game of the century, I'm not sure if we could get the man focused.
He'd take his shirt off. It's all right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he'd talk about peanut butter or rub some dirt on his face.
For sure. I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah.
What,
right, Jake. Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Go
I
ahead.
have one more real quick. No, I was just wondering, who's your favorite coach?
I don't know if I really would say that I have a favorite coach. I'm kind of like unbiased about the whole thing, but someone that I'm probably the biggest fan of, looking at it from an unbiased point of view, is probably Jay Wright from Villanova. He's proven to be really good with player development in the past. Some guys that you probably wouldn't think would be in the NBA, he's developed them, and now they're in the NBA doing very well. You saw that he won the championship in 2016 and 2018. And in 2016, he probably had the less talented team and, beat that North Carolina team. So I think he's a really good X's and O's coach and player development guy. And, I really like the success he's had. And I think even next year, I think Villanova is going to be a team to watch out for.
Oh, yeah. Well, Jake, we want to
Definitely.
thank you for taking your time out of your day. Sorry, I meant to tell you 4:00 Central Time. I didn't realize you were Eastern Time, so I'm sorry about
That's all
that.
good.
If you guys can, you can go ahead and catch Jake on Twitter at Jake from KY is his Twitter feed, and go ahead and visit his collegehoopsconnection.com website for more videos about incoming players and all that. So thanks again, Jake, and we appreciate your time.
Yep. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
All right, that's going to do it for our show today. Go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel. We will have more guests coming up in the next couple of weeks. Our next show will probably come Thursday or Friday, and we will be talking more. We'll get more into MLB with the season starting on July 4th. So that's going to do it for our show, and we'll see you next time.